Strawberry Mansion takes place in a future where the government records dreams and taxes them, where a dream auditor, played by Kentucker Audley, gets caught up in the dreams of an aging eccentric. Audley also co-wrote and co-directed this along with Albert Birney, and it hit VOD back in February after it premiered at Sundance 2021. The best way I describe this is if you cross Roald Dahl with Adult Swim. It's actually a very sweet film with a character-driven story centered on the relationship between this auditor named James Preble and this woman named Arabella, played by Penny Fuller. But then because part of it takes place in this dream world, we also get these incredibly trippy sequences that include sailor rats and waiter frogs and blue demons, yet the film still retains this oddly whimsical tone throughout it all. What's interesting about this film is how surreal it can get, yet it chooses to play most of these moments with a sense of endearment and adventure, rather than attempting to push the limits regarding how far it can go with you being weirded out. That's not to say there aren't those moments that will certainly feel maybe too out there. After all, about half of this film does take place in a dream world, but a lot of it is used to highlight this off-kilter relationship and give us developed characters. The production design here is highly commendable, with a heavy use of practical effects, oddball costume designs, and stop-motion animation, all of which were bursting with color to give each sequence such distinct imagery. And with this also shot on film, giving it a bit of a grainy look, it reminded me heavily of films from the 1970s, which I certainly appreciated, and some of the shots highlighting this unique little world were absolutely gorgeous. So it made for an absolutely visual delight. While we do spend a considerable amount of time in the dream world, there is a parallel storyline that goes in the real world that especially picks up in the second half, where Arabella's son, played by Reed Birney, steps in and tries to get Preble to stop the audit. Now, while Birney, as well as Constance Schulman as his wife, are a welcome sight in these moments, I do admit that this storyline isn't quite as visually striking or as engaging as the dream sequences, and I found myself wanting to go back to those after not too long. And while it's questionable whether or not these dream sequences had any real-world consequences, a la Inception or Nightmare on Elm Street, at the heart of these sequences, it ultimately depicts a sense of escapism for Preble, who begins to feel the drudgery of his job sink in real time. And when he gets a taste of this world where sometimes logic doesn't go, it causes him to re-examine his own values, which makes for some compelling themes. The one thing I will say is that I do wish these sequences in the dream world felt more like an emotional journey rather than a whimsical detour. While I wouldn't call these moments abstract, and at their heart is the relationship between Preble and a younger version of Bella, some of these sequences do simply just showcase the no-holds-barred style of the world, with maybe no real point to them other than to serve as a contrast to the less interesting real-world sequences. And maybe that was kind of the point, just to highlight having some fun, but I was hoping for a little more, especially since when we do circle back to the Preble-Bella relationship, that's where it would really shine through. It's just that it didn't feel like it was done enough, and I wish the film had the relationship aspect and the adventure aspect linked just a little more, as some sequences felt more like a visual delight and not much else, despite as joyous as they can be. But still, Strawberry Mansion is an interesting little film with a distinct style, using surrealist imagery that's presented in a mostly digestible manner as a way to highlight an existential crisis and the way we examine our relationships. While it's not always quite as emotionally engaging as I would have liked it to be, it's got some great visuals and compelling themes to make for a solid enough watch. I look forward to seeing more from directors Birney and Audler, and in the meantime, you should check this one out. Strawberry Mansion gets a 7 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Strawberry Mansion, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Were you able to completely follow the story, and what's one of the most surreal films you enjoy? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and keep having fun with film.